Today, we're going to be speaking about mental well-being and resilience. This is our week 13 together, and we've been doing great. And I hope that your meditation practice is well on its way and that you're not judging your meditation practice or your mindfulness, but starting again and again and again as many times as you have to. So I'm going to be bringing in our whiteboard. So if you can, please share with us what it is that you desire in life. What is it that you want that you don't already have, or maybe you already have it and you would like to keep that going? Fire burning inside of me to have a master's degree. Security. 1 week vacation. Regular schedule. Be a college professor. Regular schedule to go on vacation. And the budget to go on vacation. So remember, there's no right or wrong here. We can put whatever it is that we want. It can be anything. Anything that you feel that will make you happy. What is it that you desire, that you would like to have to be happy? See the beach. Beach time. Even a beach house, huh? Seeing and knowing. Money. Anybody else like to share? Be financially stable. To be a beauty queen. So I'll read out one or two more. Travel. Travel the world. How about, what are you afraid to lose? Are you in control? These days have really shown us that we're really not as much in control as we like to believe. Just the pandemic, the way that it happened, suddenly we were all put in our homes and we were under lockdown for a good amount of time. We couldn't go to the beach. We couldn't even see our loved ones. We lost loved ones. We might have gotten sick and we might still be getting sick. There's a lot of things that we realize that were beyond our control, far, far more than we thought in the beginning or before the pandemic. How does that make you feel to know that you're not completely in control? That you're not completely in control? Frustrated, scared but hopeful, less stressed, vulnerable, anxious but still hopeful, unsure. So, yes, there's a certain level of uncertainty when we feel challenged, vulnerable. So, stress is how we react when we feel that we're under pressure or threatened. And it usually happens when we're in a situation that we feel that we are unable to manage or that we cannot control. All of us, you likely face many demands in the day, like a huge workload, paying the bills, taking care of family. And then what happens is our body treats these minor hassles as threats. So as a result, you might feel as if you're constantly under attack. Any small thing can cause stress. So when these stressors are always present in our lives, we constantly feel like we're under attack. And then this fight, flight, freeze reaction stays turned on. So we've spoken before about how our emotions, our thoughts, sensations in the body can bring up the stressors in our lives, and then that can activate the amygdala, or that part of the brain that turns on the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. So when that is constantly turned on, because anything can represent itself as a threat to us, it's no longer that tiger or that dinosaur that is threatening to eat us, but anything like maybe not being able to meet work deadlines is already a significant threat that can activate the amygdala and this response or this reaction. So the long-term activation of this stress response can be and can lead to an overexposure of this hormone cortisol. And then this cortisol that is released when we are under stress, it can disrupt our body and the processes of our body and can lead to health problems.
Humans, like all species, have self-protective mechanisms to help us survive. Our fight, flight, or freeze survival response, the FFF for short, is designed to mobilize our brain and body to fight an enemy, run from an avalanche, or freeze to hide from a predator. Our brain sometimes misinterprets safe situations as dangerous and can set off false alarms. When the amygdala, our brain's watchdog, senses and barks danger, our body enters survival mode quicker than our rational mind can react, leaving it trying to figure out why we feel in mortal danger. When the FFF alarm is sounded, we start to breathe more quickly and shallow, causing hyperventilation, and our heart starts beating very fast. These changes can cause strong chest pain, which many people interpret as symptoms of a heart attack, when in fact it's just a result of the FFF activation, which can be relieved through breathing exercises. As a way of getting you ready for action, blood is diverted towards the major muscle groups. Blood flows away from our digestive system, causing the bladder to relax, and we might feel the need to pee. The mouth goes dry, nausea can occur, and we get the butterflies feeling in our stomach. Blood also rushes from extremities, leaving us with cold hands, but often sweaty palms as the action-ready body starts sweating to avoid overheating. Legs and hands can start trembling and feel weak, while tension starts building in big muscles like the thighs, neck, and shoulders. In our head, FFF alarms cause our brain to focus on negative memories, probably so it can scan them to avoid danger and negative outcomes. We get tunnel vision as our pupils dilate to increase our focus and long vision, but as a result, we lose our peripheral vision. FFF activation also reduces our ability to recognize differences in facial expressions. Too much oxygen and too little CO2 can result in dizziness or lightheadedness, which many people interpret as signs that they might faint. But because fainting is caused by a drastic drop in blood pressure, and because the FFF increases both our heart rate and blood pressure, It's nearly impossible to faint when this happens. Over time, depression, anxiety, and high levels of stress all harm the brain's ability to slow or cancel false FFF activations, causing them to happen more often. Knowing the symptoms of false activations makes it easier to recognize and reduce their effects.
Gives us a better understanding of how our body reacts to the constant stress that we might be feeling. It's really good understanding for us to know that stress is a very normal thing and a very big part of our lives. So it's a fact of life. And you might not be able to change your current situation, but you can take steps to manage the impact of the stress and whatever event is causing the stress that it has on you. So you can learn to identify what's causing your stress, and then you can learn to also take care of yourself better physically and emotionally. One of the things that we really need to understand is that stress is a part of life. A diamond doesn't start out polished and shining. It started out as a rock, right? It was once nothing special, but with enough pressure and time, it becomes spectacular. So to create a diamond, it has to endure so much pressure and a lot of stress for it to become shiny and brilliant as it is. The question is, if we're talking about stress that is caused by loss and desire, and that we're not in control, is it bad to want good things? It's not bad to want good things. The problem that we end up doing to cause this stress and the suffering is that we cling to things. We cling to the way we want our lives to be. We cling to also the people in our lives. We cling to material things. We cling to our bodies. That means that we're so attached to things and we're so afraid to lose things. And when good things happen to us, yes, that brings up good feelings. Unfortunately, those things are going to be lost. So without us even really realizing that, subconsciously, we know that good things are not going to last forever. And that one day, sometime down the line, we're going to lose the things that make us happy. So again, it's not a bad thing to want good things in life. It is when we are attached to these things that cause so much stress. So in Buddhist philosophy, it suggests that recurring craving, like psychological craving and clinging, disrupts the mind's balance, and it gives rise to negative emotions such as anxiety, misery, fear, anger, or stress. There is this unsatisfactoriness in life that it's never good enough. There's this constant chase of bigger and better when we're desiring things. There's always this future. I will be happy when I can have enough time to go on my vacation. And oh, yeah, also better yet, I want to make sure that I have enough money and that I hope that my partner can join me and that my partner can also take the time off and that we stay in a beautiful place. Oh, and by the way, before I'm completely happy, I want to be able to come home from my vacation and that everything is feeling relaxed and that I don't have a lot of work that I come back to. So this constant wheel of chasing what we would normally call the rat race is chasing happiness. It's never quite here yet because if only I had this, and if only this wasn't happening, if only this person wasn't making my life difficult, if only my job was better. So not only are we desiring good things in our lives, we're also desiring for bad things to not be there. So we're never ever satisfied. There's this constant wanting and wanting. And that is what we're speaking about that's causing stress. And then when things are good, we want it to stay so badly that it's painful because we know that it's futile, that it's not going to be the case, that all of these things are going to stay with us forever. Hence, if we were to just sit and look at nature, that there is this cycle of life. And here in the Philippines, we don't necessarily have the seasons, but the seasons themselves represent this cycle of, the summer or spring, when everything is in bloom, coming to life. And then there's summer, and then the fall when the leaves come down. And then there's winter when there seems to be no life. And that cycle is ever so present in everything around us and within us. The cycle of life is there too, if we observed ourselves long enough, the people around us long enough. It was mentioned earlier, we want to keep, to hold on to your beautiful face. Well, the sad truth of it is that we're not going to stay young and beautiful all the time. There is the truth of aging. Our bodies age. And then there's the other truth that we are going to get sick. We've been sick before. We might feel sick now. And then there will also be an occasion in the future, might be many occasions where we do feel sick. There is the truth that there's illness that we experience. There's also the truth of things decaying, that nothing lasts, including our bodies. There is a Buddhist teaching, it's the parable of a mustard seed. There is this woman who lost her son. This baby had died. And she was so distraught. She was so heartbroken. And what she did was she went to all of her neighbors asking if they can help bring her son back to life. And one of the neighbors said, go to the Buddha and see if maybe there's a way that he can do that to bring your son back to life. So she went to the Buddha, and the Buddha says to her, okay, well, why don't you go back to the village, and for every household that you find that has never experienced death, get a handful of mustard seeds and bring them back to me so I can make the medicine to bring your son back to life. So she went back to the village. She went from home to home, door to door, begging for the people who answered the door to give her mustard seeds if they had never had a loss in their family, in their household. And if you can imagine, not a single home didn't experience a loss in their family, a loss of a loved one. So when she went back to the Buddha, she had this epiphany that, wow, there's not such a person, not one family, no living being has ever been without loss, has never experienced this forever, this constant. So she realized that yes, everybody goes through it and it's a part of life. As we can sit back and watch nature, we notice impermanence. And here I show to you how, from here as a 5-year old and then a teenager and then as an adult, you can see there that I had gone through that whole cycle. And they say that in our bodies, our cells change. All of our cellular makeup changes in a 7-year cycle. So there's that impermanence happening. We age, our bodies change. And our minds are also constantly changing. If you had sat long enough in meditation to be with your mind and notice how many thoughts are fleeting from one to the next, and the mind is constantly racing, there's not one single thought that stays forever, but it's moving, it's constantly moving, it's ever so changing, as well as our feelings, our emotions. There's nothing constant. We might be happy one moment for one day, and if we're lucky, we hold that happiness for a certain length of time. Then there's something inevitably that happens and it shakes us out of our balance. And we have a lot of different, a myriad of emotions that go through us, different feelings and sensations. So if we were to step back long enough and to be there and observe, we notice impermanence in our experience directly in our bodies, our minds, our emotions. And we also notice that impermanence in nature, as well as we notice it in the world that we live in, especially now with technology moving so fast. It seems to move a lot faster than I can keep up with. Everything is moving and seems to be going faster and faster. And how much stress do we feel around that? In which case, whenever we think, okay, well, my body's changing, my mental state is constantly changing, my emotions are changing, then who am I? If I am not the person that I was in the past, and the person that I strive to become in the future is not yet here, who am I? And if you are not your thoughts, as we had learned previously, and if you are not your emotions, as we had learned previously, and if your body is constantly changing and shifting and aging, who are you? And this is that question. And this is another teaching, which is that it's the non-self. How do we identify with anything that we hold so dearly, that we feel that's so solid in our lives? What is it that we can hold on to? If everything is impermanent and if all that we can rely on is that everything changes, what can you hold on to? If you can reflect for a moment, take a breath as you allow for all of that that was just shared with you to land in your body, in your heart, in your mind. What can you hold on to? Knowing that everything is impermanent. If you feel like you're losing everything, remember, trees lose their leaves every year, yet they stand tall. Let's take a breath, and I will read that again. If you feel like you're losing everything, remember, trees lose their leaves every year, yet they stand tall. So it's not all doom and gloom. The reason why we're here is because we want to know how to be truly happy. And now we will talk about the path. to true happiness. And there is a path that takes us away from this cycle of this constant running around searching for happiness. And the path that leads us to this true happiness is an eightfold. Okay, there's wise understanding. So to really know deep down in your whole being that stress is a part of our lives and that there's a cause to stress. The cause to stress is our clinging for things to be the way what we want them to be, or for the way that we don't want them to be. And there's also what causes us stress is the greed, which is related to that desire of that clinging. And then there's that hatred when we push away things that we don't want. And then there's also the ignorance of not knowing exactly who we are, what we're here for. But there is an end to stress. And this is the path that we're speaking of right now, the path of really, so first is wise understanding to know that this is what it is. Stress is ever so present. It will not stay as long as you know how to proceed with the practices and the teachings that we're working with. There's wise thought. So knowing in your thoughts that we're not attaching and not clinging to anything. We're cultivating thoughts of love, thoughts of nonviolence. And we do not only extend it to just our family unit, but we extend it to all beings. All beings, meaning the no-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the multi-leggeds, the ones with wings, the ones with fins in the sea, the ones that we see and the ones that we don't see, the ones that we know of, and then the ones that we have never even dreamed of. We also extend these wishes of love and non-harming or non-violence to our ancestors, to our beloveds who passed away. We extend them to plants, to the plants and the trees that give us food, and to even the little things that, like the soil, everything that seems also inanimate, things that seem that are not alive, but there's so much life and so much that value that it brings to us. So these are the types of thoughts that we want to cultivate. There's also wise speech. Speak the truth. So use words that are friendly and benevolent, pleasant and gentle, meaningful and useful. We talked about that the last time. Is it, before we speak, we think, is it true? Is it honest? Is it inspiring? Is it nice? Or is it, I forget the end, and then is it kind? So if anyone here remembers what the N is, please put it in the chat box. So one should not speak carelessly. So we also need to know when to speak. It should be at the right time and at the right place. And if you don't think that what you're going to say is useful, then we stay quiet. And then there's also wise action. We are acting with honor and with peaceful conduct. And not only for ourselves, but we also want to extend this wise action to help others to lead a more peaceful and honorable life. There's also wise livelihood. So what that means is that we want to stay away from making a living from things like trading arms and lethal weapons, drugs, intoxicating drinks, or poisons. We want to steer away from killing animals, from cheating, gambling. And so the profession or the livelihood, the things that we make a living out of would be something that we cannot feel shame, we will not feel ashamed of, that we will not be blamed for, and that we're not causing harm to others. There's also wise effort. It's that willpower to prevent any of these unwholesome states of mind from arising. And then also to produce these wholesome states of mind more and more as we go along with the practice of really living to our fullest potential. So really show up in your life in the most skillful way possible. Doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, because there's no such thing. And it's also perfectly normal to make mistakes. And yet, at the same time, we know, okay, we don't judge that. We start again from the beginning and we try to do better with more skill and wisdom. There's wise mindfulness. So, to as much as possible, be awake, to be aware and mindful and attentive with regard to what's happening in your body, what's happening in your heart with the feelings and emotions that arise, and then also the thoughts in your mind, whatever ideas are there, how you're perceiving the world and things. And lastly, we have wise concentration. So it's to develop that focus, that one pointedness of mind. And so during that, we also want to cultivate feelings of joy and happiness. That leads toward balance and to more acceptance of things just as they are. We've already gone through so many different practices that you can do to be more mindful, to be more alive, to be more aware, to be here, right now, not caught in the past or fantasizing about the future, but being here in this moment, right now, through your meditation practice and different ways of meditating with the breath, with your body scan, with being more aware of the thoughts and the emotions that are there so that you have the understanding of what's causing your stress. There's also the cultivating of love and kindness and compassion. There's as well as just the relaxing breath. So, noticing that when things are tightening up in your body, perhaps the head is getting hot, whatever is showing up in your body, and the sensations, the pain in your back, the shakiness in your legs, then taking a few moments to sit back, take a few long, deep breaths so that you can relax and then let go of that stress response, maybe lower down the heart rate, and then the cortisol comes to become more regulated in your body. And then you can come back again to your life in a more present, like with more presence and with more kindness. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there's nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. By Lao Tzu.